Suspended Badger football player Quintez Cephas in court on sexual assault charges. What developed during today's hearing?
A group of family-owned stores known for its unique items for sale is closing. Hear from the owner of the World of Variety stores.
I realized we were going to be delivering a baby the moment the mother-to-be said, "It's coming."
2 babies in 2 days, both delivered along the road. Hear from the paramedics who helped out the expecting moms. It's only at 6.
This is News 3 at 6.
Thanks for joining us. The Badger wide receiver facing sexual assault charges will go to trial.
Quintez Cephas was in court today where his attorneys tried to dismiss the case. Amanda Quintana is live from the Dane County Courthouse with what happened during today's hearing. Amanda?
Yes, well, after arguing about what names to call the alleged victims in the courtroom and then whether the criminal complaint paints the full picture of what happened on that night in April, the judge decided there is probable cause to go to trial.
The state has met its burden and has shown to a level of probable cause that a felony was committed and that Mr. Cephas is the individual who probably committed that felony.
Badgers receiver Quintez Cephas will go to trial, facing 2nd and 3rd degree sexual assault charges, crimes that could put him in prison for 50 years. But his defense says the accounts of the 2 women accusing him of rape are unreliable.
Every fact is going to be hotly contested. And we think and believe that at the end of this case, when all the facts are known, that what we've said from the very beginning will be demonstrated, that all 3 people who were in that room that night knew exactly what they were doing.
His attorneys plan to argue that the women weren't drunk, saying surveillance footage from Cephas's apartment contradicts that.
She never needs assistance in walking. She climbs upstairs without any assistance. And she converses, as I've previously indicated, with Mr. Cephas and has no difficulty standing.
Along with a text message from the other woman early the next morning asking for an item she might have left behind.
Demonstrates, and I think there is a singular meaning here, that she knew where she had been, she knew who she was with, that she had left something at his apartment, and that she was capable of sending a coherent text.
The state hoping to prove it doesn't matter how drunk they were, it's the fact that they were incapable of giving consent.
I'm innocent. I know the truth. They know the truth. And, I look forward to clearing my name and fighting for who I am.
Now, in that criminal complaint, his roommate and fellow football player, Danny Davis, says he thought the girls were drunk, so this might become an issue once we go to trial. Now, after court, we asked Cephas how he feels about going to trial, since this means he's going to probably miss the entire football season. And at that point in the interview, he decided to stop commenting and leave.
Amanda Quintana reporting tonight. Thank you, Amanda.
It has been 2 months now since a deadly gas explosion in Sun Prairie. Through this tragedy, the community has built a reputation of being Sun Prairie strong. And along with surrounding communities, they have banded together to help raise more than $500,000 to the Disaster Relief Fund. Jamie Perez joins us now with how your contributions have helped and where that money is heading. Jamie.
Right, well, you said it, that huge number, $500,000, that exceeded so many people's expectations of just how much money would be raised. So how exactly was it distributed? $220,000 is going towards displaced residents and those who lost their place of business, $148,000 towards businesses and property owners, and then $141,000 towards emergency first responders. Now, through all of this generosity, many people have gotten lucky, including one business owner who you're about to meet. He's just one of dozens whose applications got approved to receive some of those funds.
It's been 2 months. That's more than 1,400 hours since the Sun Prairie community watched their downtown crumble and burn. This is that same area today.
We already think Sun Prairie is a close-knit community, but this really proved it.
With your help, more than $500,000 was raised for the Disaster Relief Fund for businesses, displaced residents, emergency first responders, and cleanup efforts.
We had no idea when this fund was started what amount of money would be raised. We had to keep increasing our target.
A target that continuously exceeded expectations, all of it going back into this community, making it, well, you know.
It's really been an amazing to be a part of it.
being a part of it and living it.
In that building, it's basically a complete loss.
This is the old City Hall building where the chocolate caper operated out of.
We lost about half our business.
Daniel Donahue is the co-owner and says he got lucky. His second store operates out of Oregon.
Oh, we feel very lucky. I mean, I know there are businesses that don't have a second location, that don't, that the explosion happened and they were shut down.
He says he'll reopen again in Sun Prairie in about 6 to 12 months.
The exterior of the building absorbed the shockwave and took it like a champ.
But he was one of 15 business owners the city approved to receive some of the disaster relief funds.
You had to be in the defined sort of affected area. It couldn't be something that was covered by insurance. It couldn't be loss of income. But anything that fell in your insurance deductible, cleanup expenses, lost inventory, things like that were all things that were covered.
Even though his store in Sun Prairie was destroyed, he brought a little bit of the Sun Prairie spirit with him to Oregon.
We have the Sun Prairie Strong boxes that we're selling right now. And
until the city can rebuild the rest of what was lost, Daniel, like many others, will stay
Sun Prairie Strong.
Now, many of the businesses who were approved to receive some of the money from the disaster relief got more than what they applied for. Daniel asked for about $2,100. The city is giving him $5,000. Now, if you're a business owner or a resident who hasn't heard from the city yet, sit tight. They are still working out some of the paperwork before they can cut checks and let everyone know directly if they were approved and how much money they will get to rebuild everything that they lost.
Massive generosity from the community to help out. Jamie, thank you.
Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti with our first alert forecast. Gary?
Well, the weather just keeps coming on and staying the same, and that makes it pretty nice for most of us, especially those still drying out from the flooding of a couple of weeks ago. Visible cloud track, hardly a cloud to be found around. The nights start out cool thanks to the dry air. Here in Madison, we dropped to 51. A number of locations were in the upper 40s to the lower 50s. Current temperatures are in the mid to upper 70s. A little cooler near Lake Michigan. Temperatures closer to the 70-degree mark there, but farther to the west, La Crosse is at 80. Boscobel just shy of that at 79. Dew point temperatures are still in the upper 40s to the lower to middle 50s, so they are very comfortable. By tomorrow morning, we'll be down into the middle 50s for overnight low temperatures. For tomorrow, look for sunny skies. Turn partly sunny in the afternoon with a high of 78. That's your first alert forecast.
All right, Gary, thank you. This summer's heavy rains have some people asking if we can bank on a wet winter as well. Meteorologist Dave Caulfield joins us now with what we can expect in the months ahead. Dave?
Well, Eric, the question on a lot of people's minds is, will the recent weather lead to a very snowy or maybe an extremely cold winter? Now, historic summer rains and flooding have some speculating a more severe winter season will visit Madison. However, experts say there's no real connection weather-wise between the summer and the winter months. The weather in the summertime is controlled by different phenomena compared to the weather in the fall.
The atmosphere has almost no memory at all. It's like a cat. And whatever happens this week is completely forgotten by next week.
Martin says we most likely think this way because people have a sense that weather events average out in the long run. As far as the actual forecast, right now there's about a 70% chance of an El Nino developing during the winter months. That would typically make southern Wisconsin's weather warmer and less snowy, but that forecast is not yet set in stone. Now, Martin also said because we got all of our big snow events in March and April last year, this winter will probably feel like a very snowy one regardless, even if we simply get the normal amount of snow in December, January, and February. It's all about perception and timing.
All right, Dave Caulfield joining us in studio. Dave, thank you.
4 paramedics and 8 EMTs will soon get their stork pins for helping deliver 2 babies within 2 days. One baby was delivered at the intersection of East Washington and Highway 30. The other 12 hours later on Waxwing Lane. With the first baby, the mom-to-be tried to make it to the hospital but had to pull over. She delivered a healthy baby girl in the back of the van. With the other baby, the expecting mom and a man were headed to a car, and they realized they're not going to get to the hospital in time. First responders arrived to help deliver a baby boy.
So we were getting our cot to go get her, and she began walking to the back of the ambulance. As she approached the back of the ambulance, she says, it's coming right now. So right there at the back of the ambulance, standing on the side of the road, we delivered the baby right then and there within about 2 minutes of our introduction to one another.
Both the baby girl and baby boy are healthy.
Wisconsin will soon say goodbye to the World of Variety, a group of family-owned stores that live up to their name and have been mainstays in their communities. News 3's Rose Schmidt shares the story of the Mudler family and the stores they they love so much.
How are things with you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
You get the personal service in a small store, which you don't get at a large big box stores.
It's the place that sells a little bit of everything.
A store like this, it's a meeting point for a lot of people.
One people can rely on.
I've been coming here probably right around 40 years.
But this moment is a bittersweet one.
We've been thinking about it for a while. We closed 2 stores about 2 years ago, and that probably started to make it a little bit easier to think, well, if we close 2, we could someday close the other ones.
When all of the merchandise is sold, owner Mike Mudler will close the doors for the last time at World of Variety.
It was our life. It was a part of us.
A store that has been in Mike's family since 1973. Mike's family lived in Germantown when his dad saw an ad in the newspaper saying a store was for sale in Fenimore.
They got out their map and they figured out where Fenimore was and went out and took a look and decided to move their family out here.
He and his wife Alice bought the store from his parents in 1996, opening a total of 6 locations. They now plan to retire and spend more time with their 2 sons.
Part of doing this is sometimes means not seeing your family as much as you'd like to.
Mike will be the first to admit it hasn't always been easy.
When you're in a business like this, you're never off of work. It's always there.
But it's been worth it.
I've been trying to thank our customers and our staff because we could live our dream.
And longtime customers are just as grateful.
Happy trails, Mike, and your family. Enjoy retirement.
Unique store. Rose Schmidt reporting. Mike says he's been blown away by all the positive responses he has received by the community. The 4 locations are having sales throughout this week of up to 50% off.
This is a day most of us can remember exactly where we were.
Join us as we remember the thousands of lives lost 17 years ago today during the 9/11 attacks.
Communities nationwide held special observances today in honor of the 17th anniversary of the September 11th attacks in New York City, Washington, and at the Flight 93 Memorial in Pennsylvania.
And Madison was no exception. The Madison Police and Fire Departments, their honor guards, held a special ceremony. This was at the Madison Curling Club, which is in McFarland, remembering the thousands of innocent lives lost and recognizing the heroic actions of the more than 400 first responders who were killed at the World Trade Center.
In valor, there is hope. And luckily, even though it's 17 years later, bravery and valor is never out of fashion. Thank God.
The departments were at the curling club as they also co-hosted their annual 9/11 Never Forget blood drive from 7 in the morning until 1 this afternoon. Now still ahead, Hurricane Florence getting closer to the Carolinas. Gary Canalti is tracking this very strong storm.
And hear about some of the help Wisconsin is providing to those living down south.
While Florence heads for the East Coast, our weather stays high and dry for the foreseeable future. I'll have our first alert forecast in just a few minutes.
Welcome back. The Carolinas and Virginia are all under states of emergency at this hour.
There are mandatory evacuations in all 3 states, too. Crews with the Federal Emergency Management Agency are positioning themselves from South Carolina to Delaware. They expect a 15-foot storm surge, winds of up to 130 miles per hour, and up to 30 inches of rain to an area already saturated from Tropical Storm Gordon.
Volunteers from the Wisconsin American Red Cross are in the Carolinas to help with preparation for Hurricane Florence and recovery from the aftermath there. 13 people in Wisconsin departed from Mitchell Airport in Milwaukee this morning, and those volunteers are setting up shelters for the thousands of people living along the coast, moving to safer territory.
And Gary's here. He's actually keeping a track of Florence as well.
Because it's indirectly affecting our weather. It's actually causing our weather to be very quiet around here and very nice, at least through the weekend and into the early part of next week until Florence eventually moves inland. But there it is. Tropical weather track shows over the last 12 hours maintaining its strength. A very strong Category 4 hurricane, very defined eye right in the center of the storm, and a fairly large circulation as well. Maximum sustained winds right now, 140 miles per hour, moving to the west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. Forecast path from the National Hurricane Center brings it to near Category 5 strength as it crosses the warm waters of the Gulf Stream. And then as it gets closer to shore, it maintains at least a strong Category 4 strength with maximum sustained winds of 140 miles per hour. Now, this is what we call the cone of uncertainty, the most likely area that the storm could end up, at least the center of the storm, crossing the coast. Notice how it slows down as it starts to move inland, somewhere in the middle portion of North Carolina, most likely, but anywhere from the northern portions of South Carolina, perhaps as far north as Norfolk, Virginia, certainly in the path of this storm. And then as it slows down, the winds weaken, but the rain just starts to pour down, and they could see anywhere from 20 to 30 inches of rain in some areas, causing a lot of inland flooding as well as a strong storm surge along and just north of the path where the storm hits the coast. Now, the watches and warnings currently in effect. You can see hurricane warning in effect basically from the northern portion of South Carolina about as far north as Norfolk, Virginia. Tropical storm watches north of there. Hurricane watch as far south as Charleston, South Carolina, and also for inland areas away from the coast. Live from the Queeby Radio Skycam in Platteville. Clear skies around here, hardly a cloud to be found anywhere around. This is the WISC Skycam looking off toward the east, and the Edgewater Skycam in downtown Madison showing a sunlit capital. As we look at the almanac for today, high temperature, a very pleasant 78 degrees, low temperature 51, and right now our current temperature is 77. Winds are from the south at 11 miles per hour. The dew point dropped into the upper 40s. You can see as Florence starts to head toward the coast, notice this large area of high pressure that's formed out ahead of it where the air is sinking and warming up, and that's just keeping our weather quiet. This cold front to the west will stall out and keep any threat for rain well to our north and west. And temperatures right now mainly in the 70s, perhaps warming up by a few degrees into the lower 80s as we head toward the weekend, but staying very nice. Forecast for tonight, mostly clear, comfortable, low temperature 56. Tomorrow, partly sunny, very mild, high temperature up around 78. Future track shows the southerly winds continuing through the overnight, so temperatures will drop into the middle 50s by morning. Tomorrow, high temperatures into the upper 70s. Tomorrow night, mostly clear skies, low temperatures in the middle 50s. And then Thursday, another day with partly sunny skies, highs mid to upper 70s. 7 to 10 day forecast, dry weather expected all the way through the weekend and into the early part of next week. Next chance for a shower or thunderstorm, perhaps Tuesday, followed by a little cooler weather for the middle of next week.
So if Aaron Rodgers can't play Sunday, are you comfortable with Deshaun Kaiser as the Packers quarterback? The story's coming up in sports. Aaron Rodgers was on the Dan Levitard show on ESPN radio today. They kind of dawdled around before they finally asked Rodgers about his injury, and Rodgers responded, "I'm sure there are a lot of experts out there who are forecasting things, but we're taking it one day at a time." So what if Rodgers couldn't play Sunday against the Vikings at Lambeau Field? Well, DeShone Kizer would be the Packers quarterback. That didn't work out very well Sunday against the Bears, did it? About the only play you can remember is that interception touchdown by Khalil Mack. Kizer kind of reminded Packer fans what it's like when Rodgers can't play and Brett Hundley 2.0 is in there. Kizer says he's ready to go if Rodgers is not.
No, you got to prepare as a starter every week. I think that we have a pretty good process that we were able to go through last week. We'll be able to adjust a couple things in terms of, spending some extra time understanding some 2-minute situations and things like that. But for the most part, I think we have a pretty good process for the backups, Tim and I, and I'll continue to stay on that same path and hopefully be just as prepared for next week.
A former Packer had a great game catching passes for the Oakland Raiders last night. No, not Jordy Nelson. Tight end Jared Cook, he had 9 catches for 180 yards in the Raiders' 33-13 loss to the Los Angeles Rams. Nelson had a very so-so debut at the Raiders. He was targeted 4 times, and Jordy Nelson had 3 catches for 23 yards. The Badger football team should have a more competitive game at Camp Randall this Saturday when BYU comes to town for a 2:30 p.m. kickoff. But then again, the point spread this week, Wisconsin is favored by 21.5 points. The Badgers have had 2 solid wins against Western Kentucky and New Mexico by a combined point total of 79-17. But as the competition gets tougher, the Badgers know they'll have to sharpen their game, especially when the Big Ten season begins next week at Iowa. But with Jonathan Taylor running well, the Badgers feel like they're in a pretty good place so far.
I would say we're close. I don't think I'll ever say we've hit on all cylinders because you're never going to play the perfect game. Football won't allow you to do that. But I think we're playing well. But that was the past. We have to play well again this week. So we can always get better, and that's always got to be the approach, or you'll just start going backwards. So I like the way we're playing. I think we're playing well. We're having fun, which is the most important thing.
The Prep Mania High School football game of the week takes us back to Verona, where Sun Prairie and the Wildcats are only a game out of first behind Madison Memorial in the Big 8 Conference. It's a big game. You can watch it live on TVW and live streamed on channel3000.com at 7 Friday night. Brewers and Cubs will play at Wrigley Field again tonight just after 7. The Brewers took game 1 of the series last night as Jeremy Jeffress closed it out for his 11th save of the season. The Brewers won 3-2. Tonight's starters are Ulysse Chassin against Jose Quintana. Not only are the Brewers just a game behind the Cubs atop the NL Central, now they're in really good shape for a wild card playoff spot, too. The Brewers hold the top wild card and are 2.5 games ahead of the second wild card holders, the Cardinals, and it's 4.5 games between the Brewers and the Dodgers, who are third in the wild card standings. 15 games left in the regular season. Gary?
No comment.
What do you think?
No comment.
All he did was this.
Yeah, Cubs are not looking good. I'm going to the game tomorrow, so yeah, it's not been a good.
Why are you glass half empty right now?
Because I'm a Cub fan. Actually, the Cub fan says, when's the glass going to spill over? See, that's
Eeyore
right.
was a Cubs fan.
That's right.
Did you know? No, darn.
I'm also a little more realistic. I have to work in weather, too. So, but
weather is a reason for optimism.
Yeah, look at these temperatures. Mid to upper 70s right now. Temperatures around 80 through the weekend and a little cooler next week, but just one chance for rain, really, Tuesday of next week.
Gary, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you back here at 10.